In the classic series of Ben 10, right at the tail end of the show, we're introduced to the villain team, the Negative 10. A team made up of some really great individual villains, and some villains that feel a bit out of place being there. Standing on the shoulders of giants a little bit here, and taking a note from Kuro, following his video rewriting the lineup for the villain team, the Negative 10, I wanted to now rewrite that team, at least an approximation of that team, for the end of Omniverse. With the group somewhat reforming following the events of the series, reassembling while Ben, Gwen, Kevin and Rook are off-planet on their space road trip, confronting them when the ship lands. So let's answer the question, what would the Negative 10 look like if they reformed at the end of Omniverse? I was going to run you through a bit of background on each team member before we got into the chat with Kuro, but after talking to him about this, I think it's best we get right to the chat with him from the very start. Let's get into the 10 members I've chosen, and they're very heavily inspired by yours, but with the context of this is taking place after Omniverse ends, and let's say the team's gone for like a theoretical space road trip like promised into the series. Well, that would be season 7, wouldn't it? So this would be like season 8.
Gotcha, sounds good.
And then borrowing from you and Negative 10, it's like a two-parter. So starting off with Charmcaster, because I really wanted to keep her and Dr. Animo.
Yeah, you gotta keep them. They're classics.
Very classic villains, and also like Charmcaster just being a good answer to Gwen.
Absolutely.
Then we've got Phil making his return. He's left the Rooters and he's joined this team for reasons that'll be explained later.
Does he still have the Tarantula powers?
Yes, I'm thinking, at least I was kind of thinking about your video with how you sort of did like save on voice actors, like, you know, maybe cut a few lines here and there. I'm thinking we go full Tarantula, does not go back to his human form.
Yeah, that could be fun.
It's partially just sort of saving room for bigger personalities.
Yeah, that's always the trickiest thing with the Negative 10 is like there's 10 of them, so you kind of pick and choose like which ones to really highlight and which ones are kind of there just for muscle.
Exactly, and I've probably gone a little muscle heavy with my picks potentially. So next we've got, and really going into the voiceless characters, I'm bringing back the LeBon from the classic series.
Okay.
So kind of like what you did with Dr. Victor coming back, but he doesn't want to join, he's being made to join.
Ah.
So actually, I'll just give you a little background for him just because I feel like that's not a lot to go off of. The idea is that Dr. Animo found him and went, that's an alien monster, that's something I can mutate, and brings him into this group as like a test experiment. But before he does, there's a bit of a miscommunication with our next member, Kyber, and Animo presents this as like, this is your new beast that you can use. And Kyber, knowing it's a sentient species but just can't communicate in English, just goes along with it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I was curious how you were going to tie the LeBoan into it, but I wasn't sure if I should wait till I hear the story as well to start asking questions.
And then next up to help with the Nemetrix, we've got Albedo. So his motivation here, at this point, he is still 11-year-old Ben. And then joining him as an answer to Kevin, we've got a... You know what, I think I might save it for you, actually, but the audience will know who this is. But this is a big bad that's making a return.
Okay. Mystery spot.
Then we've got a replacement for the Forever King, which I feel is a bit sacrilegious, especially after your video where you really reworked the Forever King in like a nice way without straying too far, but sort of just adding that more depth. But we've got a character I'm calling the Mad King, who's a sort of original character, but we'll get into that later as well.
Well, this is after Omniverse, so first Negative 10 happened already in this continuity as well, and this is sort of like a reboot, or would this be the first Negative 10 in this storyline?
No, this is a reforming of the, a sort of a spiritual reforming of the group.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Oh my god, I've just realized in my list I've actually forgotten to add a character where one, you know what, I think I've one character down, that's so embarrassing. I've realized I've listed 9 here. Then we've got Kundo, who's returning as our Red Knight replacement.
Oh, that's a good collision between the two characters, the Red Knight and Kundo. They fit perfectly.
Thank you. That's what I was thinking. Like really borrowing from what you did with Rojo, basically, but just taking Kundo to his sort of extreme where he becomes more and more like cybernetic.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, if you're missing a character, you can also have Chadwick be there in his monkey form and sort of just like double up with Phil.
You know what? I like that. Okay, you know what? We're going to add a bonus 9th character because when I was initially writing this, I had a filler that I was like, maybe I'll add a hybrid. But then I went, that does not work for the story I've written.
Sweet. Yeah, that's a good lineup. So we got Charmcaster, Animo, Phil, LeBoan, Kyber, Albedo, Mystery Character, Mad King, Kundo, and Chadwick.
If you're taking math, I could be wrong. And now that I've forgotten a character that's made it so bad, there's also one more mystery character as well.
Oh, okay.
So they'll be revealed.
Gotcha.
So getting into it. So picture great space adventure. They're all like, wow, whatever, that was so amazing. We've been away for how long summer vacation in America, like 3 months, 2 months?
Yeah.
So they land back on Earth. They've had their great galactic adventure, and they land in Bellwood, and sensors start going off. They're like, that's a bit weird. We can't reach the plumbers. And they land, and the whole place is in ruin. Kind of like Time Heals when Gwen sees the apocalyptic Bellwood when Hex takes over.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of that same vibe. But immediately upon landing, they're confronted by a group of Forever Knights. But instead of wearing silver, they're all in like copper, like rusted, very orange kind of armor.
Oh, interesting.
Forever Knights are a little bit more formidable. They've just got some like weird, unexplained. Their suits are just like a little bit tougher. Like everything's had a bit of an upgrade.
Oh, so they're just copper in color. They're not like old suits.
No. So they're basically like a fresh coat of paint, really. Like they're new ordered suits. They're a little bit slapdash together, but they just seem a little bit more durable and like hardy.
Gotcha. All right.
Despite that, team beats them. Goes, okay, we need to kind of work out what's going here. We'll call Max. No response from plumbers. No response from Max. So they sort of hide out. They're seeing like all these groups of Forever Knights all over the place, all these sort of encampments of people. And as they sort of take off, you see on a rooftop, there's Kyber with his 2 new watchdogs, one being Phil, the other being the werewolf or in the Nematrix, and I guess his third one being Chadwick. So his 3 watchdogs. He's hunting them down, he's observing them. Like, and he radios to someone saying they're on Earth.
So Kyber's got his own like little subsection of the group that he's in charge of.
Exactly right. So I've sort of grouped them off together, kind of like how the original one did, and sort of how you did a bit too. There's subgroups within the 10.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we've got Kyber tracking them down to a train station where they've sort of held out, kind of mirroring where Kevin and Ben sort of had that first confrontation with the hybrid heat blast form. Picture that sort of setting. Kyber comes in and confronts them. The Bowen comes in. Ben and Rook sort of start fighting those two. Kevin and Gwen are sort of debating. In this, they sort of take a bit of a backseat because they've been out of the action a little bit for a while. They're sort of less eager to jump in, especially with sort of Rook and Ben's constant sort of dynamic off of each other, kind of being the duo now. And so I have it that Kevin reaches into a power box. I think it's called a power box, like a switchboard. Goes to do like a bit of his dad's style, shoot electricity out. And right as he does, we have Phil land in, absorbing the blow.
Oh, that's cool.
Thank you. I thought it was like a silly little thing. And then with your addition, Chadwick comes in, and right as Gwen's about to do something, he comes in behind her, grabs her by the wrist, and tries to like basically stop her from using her hands to do any spells.
Okay, so Gwen and Kevin staying out of the battle was sort of their downfall.
Exactly. The idea that they didn't jump in right away, it sort of gave them way for Phil and now Chadwick to sort of jump in as well. Despite the fact that they're pretty overwhelmed, the veterans at this point, Kevin yells out, "Go for the collar." They're pretty well versed with the Nematrix at this point. They do. Immediately the Bowen gets freed of it. Kyber's not really an issue. He's a non-factor once the Nematrix is taken out. Once the fight's over, the LeBowen's still sort of freaking out. Has a sort of a similar negative mental downside to Phil. Basically, Ben just goes, oh, this guy, I remember him. He can't communicate with us. Turns on the Omnitrix's universal translator and just starts having a chat, basically. Goes, we know you're not a monster. You're not a werewolf. You're a LeBowen. Why are you with these guys? And basically he says, been trapped on Earth for so long. Animo found me. They did this to me. And then they go, well, we'll take you back to the North system if you side with us and tell us what's going on. And so he spills the beans and he says, basically, the Mad King's come in. He's gotten this group together to take out Ben and the others, and they're operating at the plumber's base.
Okay, yeah, I'm following so far.
And so with this newfound ally, I suppose, temporary ally, and this newfound knowledge, they sort of make their way towards the plumber's headquarters and they go through Undertown, still keeping a bit of a low profile at this stage. And they see Albedo in his alternate Humungosaur form, sort of bullying town residents, and it's being patrolled by all these Charmcasters golems. And he's sort of bullying them, being like, give me my chili fries. You're pathetic. We run this town now. He's the new mayor.
I like it. That's an interaction I didn't think I'd see before.
I just thought it'd be a fun idea to sort of incorporate him talking to the people in Undertown, since he's so like, he's literally an alien character, but he's never sort of been in that environment, and especially with him controlling it, I just thought it was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And so he's bullying him around a bit, and then he sort of gets a bit sort of squeamish, a bit shy when he sees the Red Knight come out of the shadows and starts ordering him around. And he quickly sort of sinks back, turns into his human form, and just walks back to his mayor's office. Our main cast kind of trail behind him. They follow him to the building and sort of ducking underneath the window, and they see him walk in, just kind of over it. He's pretty sick of being ordered around, and he's sort of taking it out on the residents. He sits at his mayor's desk and he turns to his deputy, who is Charmcaster, who is sort of equally not that thrilled. And she's sort of just an extra hired muscle. She's not even really hands-on. She's got a golem sort of patrolling the town. They're sort of bickering back and forth, kind of like a mirroring classic Gwen and Ben. Like a bit more hostility, obviously. But the idea is that Charmcaster filling Gwen's role, Alberto being physically a younger Ben, there is like a natural tension between them.
It parallels Ben and Gwen's relationship. I can see that working.
Thank you. They're sort of like, they're really like laying low. They're not sure what to do. They're like whispering to each other. And then the LeBowen just throws himself through the window, kind of in line with how monstrous he was in the classic series.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the Nemetrix sort of, I don't want to say psychosis because it's a big word, but you kind of know what I mean. Like he's heightened. Immediately guns it for Albedo, pinning him down and sort of holding him by the wrists. Albedo going, well, I can't activate the Ultimatrix here. I'm being pinned down, is just screaming for help. Or before Charmcaster can do anything, Gwen runs in. They sort of have a bit of a one-on-one fight while Ben and Rook are sort of debating back and forth. And just as Charmcaster's sort of overpowering Gwen, Kevin runs up behind Charmcaster and grabs her by the wrists and starts absorbing the mana from her. And that's something I wasn't super confident on. And I like the idea that Kevin just tried it and Gwen goes, what do you mean you can do that? You've been able to do this whole time? And he said, I had no idea. I just wanted to give it a go.
Yeah, I was going to say that threw me off for a second there too, but I like how that's also part of the story.
I don't see a reason why Kevin couldn't, in theory, do it. Considering he did it with like electricity and you see like other similar, I call them like energy vampire characters in my videos.
Especially by the end of the Rooters arc, like it's implied that Kevin can mutate himself without any repercussions, or at least has better control. So extending his power to like energy absorbing like living beings, I think it's a pretty natural progression of his power.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's kind of what I was going for. Is that it's this like a slight evolution to his character without making it too much about him. It's a fun sort of side note.
Yeah.
And then we have it that Charmcaster is basically, I don't want to say powerless, but at this time she is like her mana reserves are completely gone. And Albedo is like petrified of the Saboan, just gnarling at him. He can sort of see there's something wrong with it. And he just immediately spills the beans going, they promised me I could become a Galvan again. And honestly, I didn't listen to what they promised everyone else. I didn't really care.
Did they break him out of Galvan prison?
Yes.
Okay.
That sounds extreme, but it'll make sense as to how they did that, shortly.
Yeah. I mean, Galvan gets invaded all the time. They're not exactly the best at security.
Despite being the smartest species, presumably in the universe. That's a good point. I will have it that people didn't necessarily know he'd broken out into this point. So he sells out the rest of the team and just goes, they're in the plumber's headquarters, and you sort of see silhouettes of these villains at this control desk, and you'd sort of end episode 1 there.
Cool. Yeah, so there's a lot of setup in part 1. I like your lineup so far, definitely. I know they haven't all been truly revealed yet in this part, but I like where it's going. I do have one thought, but I'm waiting to see if it pays off in part 2, so I'm not sure if I want to say it yet. But one thing I was thinking that could be cool is, on the note of the Loboan, to speak to him, is instead of using the translator, if Ben turned into Blitzwolfer to communicate with him.
Oh, I like that so much better.
Yeah, like he's trying to become one of him. It would make it so the others couldn't understand him. So like the universal translator would allow everybody to understand the Loboan, but Ben turning into Blitzwolfer sort of targets the Omnitrix's purpose of, like, you know, connecting with species.
That one of everyone sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That was just my only real thought so far. But I'm liking the setup.
Kuro, I like that so much better. That's so good. I wish I'd written that. That's so good.
Hey,
the only note I'd have for myself, thank you, I know, I appreciate it. We'll change that, we'll retcon that. But the only thought I had going into this, and I think I sort of balanced it out a little bit in part 2, is I did go kind of muscle heavy, like those sort of less character-driven characters, like the voiceless ones, the monstrous characters sort of appearing pretty front and center up until Albedo and Charmcaster.
Yeah. Well, they're two big personalities anyway, so I'm sure they can really carry the scenes with their own motivations, and, you know, they've gone through their own character arcs back and forth quite a few times, so they probably need that much dedication. Do we know what the Mad Knight looks like yet, or is that going to be revealed?
I'm going to drop it into our chat now so that you can see. This is maybe not the version they'll make it to the video, but this look will be revealed at the end of episode 1.
Oh, that's neat.
So I'm not sure if you can make some connections there as to what that might be inspired by.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a little bit like Mad. Oh man, is that it? Is it Mad? Well, don't tell me, but I'm guessing Mad Ben now. Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a great design. Who did that?
That was me.
Oh, nice! Wow, awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate. I'll talk you through it once we've got to the reveal of who the Mad King is.
Yeah.
Part 2, they're getting pretty big for their boots. They're like, we've taken out Albedo, we've taken out Charmcaster, we've got LeBeau on our side. We're getting some momentum here. We kind of know what we're up against. And we know there's a guy called the Mad King out there. So they're getting pretty confident. They're sort of making their way to the Plumbers headquarters. And in sort of what I feel like is very Omniverse style, they get in the proto truck and they just sort of ram through it, like straight through the building, come crashing into the control center.
Love it.
Thank you. It cuts to right beforehand, and you have the Mad King revealed, the new Red Knight, and these two sort of shadowy figures in the background, as well as sort of Dr. Animo looking a little bit, he's a little bit bored because he's not had much to do. And so they come in, they jump out, they're all transformed. Let's say Ben goes into Diamond Head, Gwen covers herself in mana, Kevin absorbs some stone, and the Mad Knight just sort of gets up, interrupting it all. There's sort of a science, there's a sort of intimidation factor to him. He's as big as the original one is, but he's a little bit more monstrous looking, I suppose. You can see it.
Yeah.
There's sort of like a chill in the air. Let's say there's background music, it stops. They have a bit of a chat, Ben and the Mad King, and you see the Red Knight is just focused on Rook, and Rook sort of side-eyes him and is kind of moving his head back and forth, and you just see the Red Knight's head just tilting side to side ever so slightly, like as Rook makes these tiny little micro movements. And the second Rook goes to whisper, go.
No, I was going to be like, is he studying him?
He's he's pretty fixated on Rook for a reason that will be revealed. Mm-hmm. And the second Rook goes to open his mouth, like to whisper something to Ben, the Red Knight just launches himself at him, like angry. You can see there's sort of no composure there. Not saying anything, but just you can see it in the physical movements. And Rook sort of making a comment that this feels quite motivated, feels very targeted. So you get Ben sort of facing off against this like bulky, monstrous king figure, Rook against the Red Knight, who's really aggressive, and Rook sort of on the back, not losing, but is really on the back foot here with he doesn't quite know why it feels more aggressive than like a regular hand-to-hand fight. And then we get Kevin and Gwen once again debating, sort of like looping back to episode 1 as to who to help first, you know? And as they do, snarling from the corner, out comes this ultimate Agrigor, who is further mutated. He's got more of like the crustacean bits like around him, like, you know, there's like, what are they called, like barnacles on him. He's more like fiendish in the face. He's got more tendrils coming out of his back, and he's wearing a control collar. And Dr. Animo basically goes, "Look what I've done, Kevin. This is for you."
Oh man, that's pretty sick.
The idea that flashback, they found Agrigor, they took Agrigor out of the cell, and Animo applied what he knew about mutations to get what was left of the Andromeda 5's DNA in him, and sort of not only take him back to that place, but mutate him further, really borrowing from what you did with Kevin.
That's a really cool use for Agrigor, especially since he never got to show up in Omniverse and pay off the new Osmosian lore.
It's exactly. And I like the idea that he's still the clone, but he is, or still cloned from Kevin's DNA by the Rooters, in my headcanon here.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is that taken to that next degree, that he was still around the whole time, but he's back in a big way. And rather than doing like the degrading DNA, it is the opposite. He's beastly and he's not quite himself. Very much what you did with the Kevin in your video.
Gotcha.
So there's a big fight that goes on here. So Agrigor is just basically Hulk versus Loki in the Avengers film, like just throwing Kevin about. Kevin is overwhelmed from what's happened previously, and he's just like, I don't even know how to respond here. He's just on the defense. And Gwen is just putting up mana construction after mana construction, just trying to slow him down. But because of how strong he is in Terraspin species, it is slowing him down by tenths of a second. And then we have Ben going, right, I've had enough. He's not winning the fight against the Mad Knight, who is putting up quite a fight. They're on the back foot. He goes, all right, that's it, Alien X. And out of the shadows comes Collectimus, who goes, no, that's not fair. That's not what I wanted. That's not fair. That's not fun.
Collectimus.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Another curveball.
I was really trying to go for a bit of Omniverse writing here. So a slight tweak to Collectimus's power set here. He's now going to borrow a bit more from like Batmite or like Mr. Metapidalix, and has a level of control over reality.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like he had something similar to that, or at least his chair did.
That's exactly it.
In his episode, but like playing that into like a stronger antagonistic force, that's really interesting. I don't think Ben has too many foes like that.
Basically, we go back and it's Collectimus sort of rewinding tapes of the original -10 episodes, but in how he would see it, and going, I wish we had something like that nowadays. Like, this would be so much fun to watch Ben relive this moment, but now so much further in his his journey as a hero.
Oh snap! So his motivation is literally because he wants to see Ben fight the -10.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I like that.
And he thinks it's so cool. There's all these new characters he can play with. And there's the big reveal. There's a bit of a sigh here, and the Mad Knight takes off his helmet, and it is, like you guessed, Mad Ben.
That's cool.
And Mad Ben is just over it. He goes, he disabled my Omnitrix so that I'd come fight you, because he wanted it to be fun. And he said having two Omnitrixes isn't as interesting. He wanted the Mad Knight, or Mad King. And he's just here to get his Omnitrix back.
Yeah, I recognized the shoulders and from what was it, Mad NRG, and then the cross design from Mad Diamond Head at first. Well, on first glance, just because of orange, I was like, could it be Fist Trick? But yeah, the prefix Mad, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's neat.
So one of the shoulders is NRG. The helmet has that little handle like NRG, and then one of the arms is NRG. And the other gauntlet and cross pattern are the Diamond Head aspects.
Yeah, that's a really cool design. I like what you did there.
Thank you. So Collectimus is sort of giggling away, and he goes, now keep going, keep the fight going. And Ben turns into Vampire here and shoots one of those controlling things. What are they called? The
Corruptoras?
Yeah, he shoots one of those at this new Ultimate Aggregor, and you see it hit his head. The control color like starts to flash weird colors. He goes, go get him. And this snarling Aggregor turns around and locks onto Collectimus, who sort of just starts very Omniverse sort of gag style, spinning in circles trying to avoid Ultimate Aggregor, who's just swiping at him to the point where he's not happy with how things are going. It's not how it's supposed to go. Eventually he does stop Aggregor. He sort of pauses him in time and turns to Ben and goes, that's not fair. And Ben just tells him off, basically. He goes, I've had it. This isn't right. I'm over it. I'm not doing this. We're not playing this. And then Collectimus starts whining a bit more. The Mad King comes over and Ben just sort of hits him over the head, knocking him out. Yeah, basically Ben just scolds Collectimus, and Collectimus is just sort of really bummed that Ben doesn't want to play along, and that's kind of the end of it. He just sort of snaps his fingers and sends Mad Ben home, and then Animo looks at the LeBeau snarling at him, looks at what's going on, and checks himself back into his cell, locking the door behind him that he was originally in. Rook pins down the Red Knight, pulls off his helmet, reveals Kuro, who is just snarling at him again. And he goes, well, I don't know why you're snarling, you can still talk. And I like the idea that he doesn't talk either. And then, yeah, the plumbers just sort of lock all the prisoners away, and Ben is just frustrated by this whole situation.
So, does Collectimus just up and leave?
I imagine they sort of have a chat afterwards where Collectimus is, I'm imagining he's sort of sitting there, kind of like putting his finger in a circle on the floor, like, oh, I was a bit silly. And Ben's like, I am frustrated with you, but I appreciate that you care. But this is too much. And I imagine there's a bit of like a bittersweet, I've told you off, but I didn't mean to upset you. And I imagine there's sort of that conversation. Sort of a post-credit, we see the LeBeau land in the Anor system with the plumbers, and I imagine you see him come home, and I imagine he's the eldest son in a family, like 7 younger siblings, 2 LeBeau parents on a farm, and they were just like so happy to see their son again.
Oh, that's a good way to end his story.
Thank you.
I love that. All right. Yeah, so thoughts. First off, the Collectimus twist was honestly genius. I did not see that coming. I would have never guessed it, and I think it works a lot. Because Collectimus has always been a sort of character who's like primarily driven as like meta commentary on the show. Like Ben 10 has always poked at itself in certain ways, but he's really the first time like a character was created to be specifically like a voice for like, you know, the fans or the writers, or basically just commentary on Ben 10 in general. And as I'm sure you know, a big thing about Ben 10 is people like seeing these big brawls and big fights. So him in universe being like, oh, well, I want to see that again. Like I think that's a great motivation. Like the motivation being, I want the -10 back. That's something you would hear like on a forum or something. And then he'll be like, fine, I'll write my own episode. So it's like he's making the universe his own fanfic in a way. I think that's a really interesting motivation.
In a way, we are all Collectimus.
Yeah, exactly. You can even tie it sort of to the end with sort of a commentary on the community or fans or expectations further, with like, because Ben refuses to like go with it or something, or influence the fight further. Or, you know, in contrast, him going to Alien X and Collectimus is like, no, that's too far. You could even have him be like, oh, well, now I hate the show now. Like, I'm going to go watch something else. Like, he's going to quit. He leaves the Ben 10 fandom. what the note I was curious if it was going to come back or not in part two was the fact that this takes place after the road trip and they come back and the Earth is taken over. If maybe a character plot line, like something for Ben and the team to deal with situationally rather than the antagonistic forces, is the fact that like maybe if they didn't go on the road trip, they could have stopped this. So it's almost like they're being punished for taking a vacation. They're like, oh, we saved the world, let's go, have fun in the galaxy for a few months, and they left the Earth unprotected. So Collectivus is sort of punishing them for being like, no, come back. I want cool battles. I want big fights. I want more Ben 10 stories. You're on vacation. I'm going to go ruin your planet now.
This is so meta.
Yeah. I
love the layers you've added to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just I thought it taking place after the road trip and then coming back home and seeing the whole world invaded was like, a very good setup for the story. So maybe that could be something that they deal with throughout it, where they're just like, well, can we ever stop? Can we ever take a break? Or does the world always need protecting? And then, I'm sorry, now I'm just riffing.
No, that's so good. No, I like that. I really like the added layer.
Yeah.
That complements, it really ties everything together, especially like, I was sort of thinking about this. It's a lot of sort of action beats and little quips, but that's sort of really, I don't know, a lot to discuss between the characters amongst all of this.
Well, it's all inspired by your story, so thanks for making me think of that.
Thank you for drafting it.
I was curious about Ultimate Aggregor turning back into the Andromeda 5 mutation. Was there just like dormant DNA inside of him, or did they specifically want him to be the Andromeda 5 Aggregor again, or how did that come about?
My thinking was that there is some sort of database on what Aggregor did that Dr. Animo, when everything was taken over, got his hands on. He basically went, what alien can I do this to? Sees Aggregor and goes, you are I almost said conductoid. You are perfect to apply my experiments to. Let's see what's going on inside your DNA. And when he looked at him and sort of examined him further, he goes, there's more to you than there should be. There's not much, but there's little like wisps of something there shouldn't be there. Let's see what I can do with that. And sort of like turning a frog into a mutant frog, he mutated that DNA within him.
Okay, that's neat. I thought so, but I wanted to make sure.
No, that's fair.
Another small idea that could be fun is when Collectivus like pauses Ultimate Aggregor, he could turn him into a card again, like what he did to Simeon.
That's great. No, I like that. I really like that. I had the sort of idea of like, I almost wrote in that when Alien X popped out, you sort of see a giant card slapped over Alien X and Ben comes out, but Alien X is taken into a card. And I thought that might be one step too far.
You could have him like turn Alien X into a card to try to stop Ben, being like, this isn't what I want, but then Alien X literally just climbs out of the card or something as like fun. A demonstration of his power and an emphasis on Ben's resistance to play by Collectivus's rules.
Oh, true. Yeah, I suppose two reality warpers versus one reality warper saying, stop, don't do that.
Yeah, and then Ben's just like, no, I'm doing it anyway. And Alien X is always like a pretty divisive solution in the fandom, but I think keeping it to a minimal in the story and not making it about Alien X, but the little pop-up at the end is a nice note too. Like I liked how Alien X casually showed up for a couple of seconds in Weapon 11 Part 2. Just because of the fact that like he's always been treated as such like a massive, like huge deal, so him just showing up every now and then without the story being about Alien X, I'm always in favor for.
I think it's hard to write, I mean, you would know better than everyone, it's hard to write later Ben 10 without the elephant in the room being addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like with my own thing, 5YL, I just went straight forward with it. That was kind of my motivation, where it's just like, it's so hard. You either you do Alien X all the way or you don't. So I was like, let's go all the way with it. But I like how here he's sort of treated as like the crux of Collectivus's plan falling apart, where now he's just like, he lost control, his -10 doesn't work anymore, he doesn't like what Ben's doing, so he's like, all right, I'm done watching the show, and he leaves. So who did you think of first? Was Collectivus always the motivation behind your -10?
I sort of started with, who are we keeping from the original team? And I went, well, we can't include Kevin, this is Omniverse. And I was sort of toying with it, and I was like, okay, I want to include Aggregor. He's a big part. He represents the sort of alien force, alternate alien era. And I went, who can I bring in from Omniverse that affects us in any way? Like, do I add a Fistrick and a Fistina, or who do I Liam? Like, can they be Muscle? I was like, who really makes this an Omniverse story rather than an alternate alien story? And I went, oh, someone who can sort of really affect the narrative in a way that's very Omniverse is Collectimus, especially since he's not really in the show.
Yeah, he's just got that one episode, so bringing him back would be fun. And you certainly do have a pretty powerful team. Like looking at the list again, even though it is primarily muscle heavy, as you were saying, I still do think like the characters you do focus on is plenty, especially like Collectimus being there. Albedo, Charmcaster, Animo are always scene stealers. The Mad King is a very interesting twist. I want to talk a little bit more about him too. So with the Mad King, is he brought specifically just by Collectimus too? Because it seemed like everybody kind of knew each other, but with Mad Ben being from a completely different dimension, I imagine Collectimus is exclusively the link between the two. So was he just like also sort of a meta, like, oh well, I love alternate Bens, we're gonna bring one in on over on this team? Or how did you come up with the Mad King?
So the story for me was Collectimus went, I want him back, but not in the same way. And I like the idea that he's sort of like scrolling like through like a database of some sort maybe. And he's like, Ben, like who is the perfect antithesis of Ben? He's like, no, Vilgax, it's overdone. I'm not gonna. Who can we have here? And he's scrolling through and he goes, oh, this guy, I can reshape him to be whatever I want. And then the idea is he basically pops in and goes, disables the Omnitrix and goes, you have to do whatever I want, and you get it back. And he's miffed, but he can't do anything. He's been defeated already. He's already worked for Maltrum, which I sort of thought kind of like sculpted him to already be like a minion of Collectimus. And then Collectimus assembles his suit out of basically his Omnitrix transformations, is what I'm thinking of, like the material in the Omnitrix that makes the clothing, the armor, all this sort of stuff, is what comes out and assembles this suit for him. And then he goes back to the main timeline.
Oh, that's neat.
And then he acts independently from Collectimus, going around and gathering the team, with Collectimus sort of being more of a backer and observer, while Mad Ben is still using this suit and his, I guess, like combat prowess and that intimidation factor to gather these allies. And then when they couldn't get to somewhere, Collectimus poofs him in with like a puff of green smoke into an area, and he grabs an Albedo, a charm card. When I say grabs, promises him something or muscles his way through it. And then the idea is takes over the plumber base. Collectimus snaps his fingers and color codes the Forever Knights to match the new Mad King. And then they go escape, they let out all the prisoners in the plumber base, including your Agagor, your Dr. Animo, your someone else probably, Kyber.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I almost forgot the Forever Knights at the beginning had that suit upgrade, so I'm glad that question got answered.
Yeah, that was a bit tricky because I wanted to give them a color palette swap, but I was like, oh, do I describe them as a bit Mad Maxy? And I went, no, that's because the idea is like their suits are a little bit rougher kind of looking, without being too obvious.
Yeah, no, that the idea behind the suit is really intriguing too. Like almost like the Omnitrix, his Omnitrix is working except for the transformations. So it's like it could do the suits. It can. I imagine it gives him some sort of enhanced, like, athletics and durability and strength and whatnot. My last final thought that I had about this. There's a lot of villains here that sort of are big deals in their own right. And might require like special amenities for capture and whatnot. So at the end, when Collectimus himself runs off, we still have Charmcaster, Albedo, Kyber, and all of them. Are they all just arrested, or how do they disperse from the end towards the end of the story?
What's interesting, I didn't actually think about a lot of that. I kind of went, Albedo is sort of incapacitated. I imagine he's sort of tied up to the mayor's desk sort of thing. Charmcaster, I imagine she probably somehow escaped to Ledger Domain, despite the fact her mana's gone. Maybe she does manage to escape in some really sort of scrappy way and then regather her mana and then find her way back. And then I wasn't really too sure about what to do with Kyber, Phil, now Chadwick, as far as them getting locked up again. Because yeah, you're absolutely right. They went one place to another, but they couldn't really deal with them. I suppose in retrospect, I maybe could have had them when they were defeated. They could disappear into like a green smoke or something, or where they were, maybe a card appears on the floor. That could have probably potentially like teased out the final villain in the end.
I was wondering like how they're gonna arrest like all of these people, but you know, having some escape like here and there. Everybody has their own different ways of ending. Oh yeah, and now thinking about it more, so the Forever Knights are pretty much dead by Omniverse. So the knights out patrolling like Undertown and the Earth and everything in Bellwood, are they just manifestations by Collectimus, or did he reignite the Knights Order too? So are they not even real people?
I kind of pictured like anyone remotely with Forever Night blood running through their veins sort of thing. Like anyone who was a member is just poof back, armor is on them, they're on the street. Like they're at home with their husband and kids or whatever, and then they're there. They are fully armored up.
They got drafted.
Yeah, they're drafted. And they're not just drafted, they've already got their ranks, they're on the street, they've got their weaponry.
Okay. Yeah, that's about all of the immediate thoughts I had about the story.
Man, I keep thinking, like, I appreciate your time here. We'll wrap it up in a sec, but I really liked that layer you added about the responsibility of being on Earth and that playing with them, like how could we do that? We were gone and we should be allowed to have these holidays and vacations and adventures, but who's here to protect Earth when we're not if this can happen?
Yeah. That could, maybe that even inspires Kevin to like start the rooters up again, because there's that one random line Kevin has in the finale where he says like someone's got to keep the rooters in line, and they never explain what that means. So maybe like the rooters are like some type of contingency to protect the Earth.
I suppose they kind of
they're just like, well, we gotta, yeah, that's true. But Cervantes was a little bit more murderous about
definitely.
it. Yeah. But yeah, no, I definitely like the setup you have here, and I'm always a big fan of tying something like there should be a general plot and then a character journey too. So like the character journey being like, what do we do when we're away, and like do we and in a way it almost is like Collectimus is punishing them for being gone because he wants to sit and watch his Ben 10 show and see the -10 show up. So he's like, oh, if you're gonna leave, I'm gonna do this. So yeah, I very much like this story. I think it certainly works, especially because it's like a reboot of the -10 inside of, the continuity, rather than what I did where I just rewrote the episodes. This is like an addition. So maybe there can even like be commentary from him on like what he thought of like the original -10. You said he was like watching the episodes or something.
Yeah, I like to think he's watching what happened with the -10, almost how we did, pretty much. But from obviously however he views the show, I'll say quotations, the world.
No, honestly, like everything being tied to Collectimus automatically makes this super interesting to me, and there's so much you can do with it. So I like this. I really appreciate you sharing this with me.
I mean, I made the video because you made a video, I think 4 years ago. Thank you for coming on.
Of course, yeah. No, I rewatched my video this morning. It's been like a good while since I've seen it. So I can recognize the format inspiration, but I think you did a great job with this. I'm very excited to see this video completed once it comes out.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it. Do you want to plug your, I mean, I imagine most everyone watching this would know who you are already, but did you want to plug 5OL, your channel, anything like that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, 5OL is something we're very much built upon. Episodes 12 and 13 are coming out this year. 12 is dropping in November. 13 is dropping in December, and 14, the finale, is coming next year. We also have a movie for And Beyond in the works. That is it's a full-on movie, so it's a bit of dedication.
I can only imagine.
It is taking quite a bit. And we also have some trading cards we're making that will be launching in December for pre-orders, so keep your eye out for that.
That's so exciting. Yeah, right. I didn't know about that. That's really cool.
Yeah, you got the scoop.
That's very exciting. Well, this will be out before probably early November, I imagine, so perfect timing.